CD2. Lord Emsworth and the Girlfriend by P.G. Wodehouse. The day was so warm, so fair, so wonderfully a thing of sunshine and blue skies and bird-song that anyone who knew Clarence Lord Emsworth, and knew also his liking for fine weather, would have imagined him going about the place on this summer morning with a bright smile and a happy heart. Instead of this, bent over the breakfast table, he was directing a look of violent hatred at a blameless fish on his plate. It was August Bank Holiday, and Blandings Castle, on August Bank Holiday, became, in his lordship's opinion, unbearable. This was the day when his park and grounds were filled with tents, toys, balls, and paper bags, when a wave of farm workers and their crying children swallowed up those places of ancient peace. On August Bank Holiday, he was not allowed to wander around his gardens in an old coat. He was made to dress like a gentleman, and told to go out and be pleasant to the people. And in the cool of the quiet evening, the same forces put him on a platform and made him give a speech. To a man with a day like that in front of him, fine weather was a bad joke. His sister, Lady Constance Keble, looked brightly at him over the coffee-pot. "What a lovely morning!" she said. Lord Emsworth's misery deepened. He disliked being asked by this woman of all women to behave as if everything was for the best in this best of all possible worlds. "Have you got your speech ready?" "Yes." "Well, make sure you learn it by heart this time, and don't keep stopping like you did last year." Lord Emsworth pushed his fish away. He had lost his desire for food. "And don't forget, you have to go to the village this morning to judge the garden competition." "All right," said his lordship bad-temperedly. "I've not forgotten." "I think I will come to the village with you. There are a number of London children here at the moment on a fresh-air visit, and I must warn them to behave properly when they come to the fete this afternoon. You know what London children are. McAllister says he found one of them in the gardens the other day, picking his flowers." At any other time, the news of this behaviour would, no doubt, have affected Lord Emsworth deeply. But now his self-pity was so great that he did not even reply. He drank his coffee in the manner of a man who wished it was poison. "By the way," said Lady Constance, "McAllister was speaking to me last night about that new path through the trees. He seems to want it very much." "Glug," said Lord Emsworth, which, as any student of language will tell you, is the sound which all lords make when struck to the soul while drinking coffee. Concerning Glasgow, that great business and industrial city in Scotland, much has been written. The only thing about it which concerns the present writer, though, is the fact that its citizens are often cold, silent men who know what they want and intend to get it. Such a man was Angus McAllister, head gardener at Blandings Castle. For years, Angus McAllister had had as his chief desire the building of a path through a particularly famous group of the castle's trees. For years he had been bringing this plan to the notice of his employer, though a man from any other city would have been made uncomfortable by Lord Emsworth's obvious dislike of the whole idea. And now, it seemed, the gardener had brought up the subject again. "Path through the trees?" Lord Emsworth stiffened through the whole length of his thin body. Nature, he had always said, intended the ground under the trees to be covered with grass, and whatever nature felt about it, he personally was not going to have men with Glasgow speech patterns and faces like drunken potatoes coming along and spoiling that lovely stretch of green. "Path? Why not a few boards with advertisements on them and a petrol pump? That's what the man would really like." "Well, I think it is a good idea," said his sister. "One could walk there in wet weather then. Wet grass is terribly bad for shoes." Lord Emsworth rose. He could bear no more of this. He left the table, the room, and the house, and, reaching these particular trees some minutes later, was disgusted to find that Angus McAllister was there in person. The head gardener was standing, looking at the grass like a high priest of some ancient religion about to kill a human being for the gods. "Morning, McAllister," said Lord Emsworth coldly. "Good morning, your lordship." There was a pause. Angus McAllister, stretching out a foot, pressed it into the grass. The meaning of this movement was plain. It showed a general dislike of grass, and Lord Emsworth looked at the man unpleasantly through his glasses. Though he did not often think about religion, he was wondering why chance, if forced to produce head gardeners, had found it necessary to make them so Scottish. In the case of McAllister, why had it been necessary to make him a human being at all? He felt that he might have liked McAllister if he had been some sort of animal, a dog, perhaps. "I was speaking to her ladyship yesterday." "Oh?" "About the path. Her ladyship likes the idea a lot." "Really? Well—" Lord Emsworth's face had turned bright pink, and he was about to speak the violent words which were forming in his mind, when suddenly he noticed the expression in the head gardener's eye, and paused. Angus McAllister was looking at him, and he knew what that look meant. Just one word, his eye was saying, in Scottish, of course, just one word out of you, and I will leave. And with a sickening shock, Lord Emsworth realized how completely he was in this man's power. He moved his feet miserably. Yes, he was helpless. Except for that idea about the path, Angus McAllister was a head gardener in 1,000, and he needed him. That, unfortunately, had been proved by experience. Once before, when they were growing for the flower show, a plant which had later won first prize, he had dared to ignore McAllister's advice. And Angus had left, and he had been forced to beg, yes, to beg him to come back. An employer cannot hope to do this sort of thing and still rule with an iron hand. Filled with the kind of anger which dares to burn but does not dare to show itself, Lord Emsworth coughed. I'll think it over, McAllister." I have to go to the village. Now, I will see you later. I will, think it over.